Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Kate. It's so nice to have you here again today. It's a beautiful autumn fall day here in New Zealand. We've got Mother's Day coming up next week, which is the 12th of May, and this is celebrated in both New Zealand and the United States actually on the same weekend. So I'm going to do some baking today. We're going to make 3 beautiful cakes. They are super easy though. I personally love anything that can be just all mixed in one bowl. So these are 1 bowl recipes. We're going to be doing a beautiful carrot cake, an apple cake and a chocolate cake. So hopefully these will suit all the different tastes of different people. But they're super easy. So we're going to start with the apple cake. So I've got 250 grams of butter in my pot here, which I'm just going to pop onto a low heat and start melting. And while this is melting, I'll get my apples ready. The recipe calls for 3 to 4 apples that have been peeled and cored and then finely sliced. So I've got 3 apples here that I'm doing that to. One of them was quite a large apple, so I've just gone with 3 apples for my cake. We're doing the apple cake first because it takes a good hour in the oven. It's on a low oven, just 150 degrees Celsius. But I've made this cake before and it really is a beautiful moist apple cake. You know, for Mother's Day, I'm not so much of a gift person, but if someone put a morning or an afternoon tea on for me with any one of these beautiful cakes, then I would be super happy. You could finely slice these like I'm doing, or you could even just dice them up small, whichever way suits you. It's all going to be folded into the cake, so it doesn't matter so much, as long as it's, you know, not huge chunks of apple. And if you had chickens, then obviously all of these scraps would be great for feeding them. I don't have chickens, but one day I would like to have some actually. If I have a bigger bit of land, it would be great. Okay, so that's all peeled and cored and thinly sliced. So I've got my melted butter here, my 250 grams of melted butter, and I'm going to pop in 2 cups of sugar. There's a lot of sugar, I know, but you know, this cake is very delicious, and it's not like you're going to be eating it every single day. It's for a special occasion. And then my apple is going to go in here as well. And also I'm going to pop in 2 eggs that have been beaten. Give those a little whisk. Mix around. The mixture is cool enough because it's off the heat, so the eggs are not going to start cooking or, you know, curdle, so that's all fine. Looks great already. Into this mixture we are now putting in 2.5 cups of flour. The recipe calls for just plain flour, but I've actually only got whole wheat, so that's what I'm going to try. I'm sure it will be fine. And then we need to put in 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 2 teaspoons of baking soda. The baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. Smells divine, the cinnamon. And then raisins, sultanas or golden raisins, a cup of those. Luckily that's what I've got left in my pot here. You can leave these out if they are not really your thing to have, you know, raisins or sultanas in a cake. So we're just going to give this a good mix until it's all combined. Just not over stirring it though, just enough to blend it together. Now I am just going to add in a little bit more moisture because I've used whole wheat flour instead of the plain flour, so it does, you know, soak up the butter quite a bit more. So I'm just going to add that in so that it's not over dry. This is nice and combined now, so let's prepare our tin. I've got a 26 centimetre in diameter baking tin, and I'm just going to line it with some baking paper. My quick and easy way is just to tear a piece off that will fit over the whole base, and then simply pop it over like that and tighten it up, and that's the bottom of your base done. And then you can either spray around the sides if you've got oil spray, or I'm just going to use some butter on a piece of paper towel to grease the side of the tin. Just like that, super easy. So now we're going to pop the mixture into the tin. Spread the mixture around. And we're going to go into the oven 150 degrees Celsius for about an hour and 20 minutes until it's nice and golden and risen. Cake number 2 we're going to get started on while my apple cake is just baking in the oven. This is a super easy 1 bowl chocolate cake recipe. It's my fallback chocolate cake recipe that I use all the time. I pretty much know it off by heart. But it's, yeah, it uses oil for a lot of the moisture, and buttermilk, which I'll just show you how you can actually make that at home. So I've just got some buttermilk starting in here. Now if you don't have buttermilk normally in your fridge at home, which I don't, then you can easily make it or make something very similar. I've just got a cup of normal milk here, and then into it I've put probably about a tablespoon of vinegar. I've used red wine vinegar here. You can use any vinegar really. The taste doesn't come through in the cake. and you're just going to let that sit there until it's almost curdled. The milk has curdled, got that curdled effect, and that pretty much can be used as buttermilk. So into my bowl I'm going to pop 1.5 cups of sugar, one and 3/4 cups of flour, just plain flour, one and a half teaspoons of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. Now it's got cocoa powder in it, obviously it's a chocolate cake, and it's quite a lot of cocoa powder, 3/4 of a cup. The recipe calls for cocoa powder that is Dutched cocoa powder. It's a certain way that it's been made, but I've always just made it using normal cocoa powder, and it's always super delicious, you know, using it that way. So if you haven't got Dutched cocoa powder, then just use normal cocoa powder. I think I'm probably going to end up using the rest of my cocoa powder here. And we just need a little bit of salt as well. This always brings out the flavour of the chocolate. About 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to give this a good whisk together. And this is our dry ingredients done. Super easy. Into our dry ingredients goes our buttermilk, 1 cup, 2 eggs, half a cup of vegetable oil, oops, and a good dash of vanilla essence. And just give that a mix until it's combined a little bit. It will be still a little bit dry until we put the final ingredient in, but just give it a little bit of a mix until it's just loosely combined, just so that the eggs are vaguely mixed in. Okay, so the last thing we're going to put in is a cup of boiling water. Now don't worry about the eggs cooking because they're quite mixed in already, so that's not going to happen. And we're just going to give this a good mix until it's all combined. This mixture is a very wet, runny mixture, and that is how it is meant to be. So don't be worried if you look at your mixture after you've put the water in and mixed it all together and you think, oh my gosh, this is way too runny. It's meant to be like that, and it will just end up giving a super lovely, rich, moist chocolate cake at the end. Just going to whisk it together until any lumps have been removed. So this is the consistency of the cake mixture once it's all mixed together. This is how it's meant to be. I'm just going to put this to the side now because I'm waiting for the apple cake to finish cooking, and I'm going to get on making up our batter for our third cake. Our apple cake is finished and it smells absolutely beautiful. The cinnamon just smells amazing. That's what it looks like. Put that up there to start to cool down. And I'm just going to change my settings on my oven to 100 and about 175-ish degrees Celsius for the next two cakes. Okay, so we're onto the homeward stretch here. This is cake number 3. It's a beautiful, moist carrot cake. Who doesn't love an amazing carrot cake? So into my bowl here, I'm going to be popping my dry ingredients first. So we've got our sugars going in first. 1 cup of granulated sugar. And a cup of brown sugar. This mix of sugars just gives it more of a, I guess, a sort of caramelized taste to it rather than it just all being white granulated sugar. The brown sugar just lightly packed into the cup. And then we're going to pop in 2 cups of plain flour. And 2 teaspoons of baking soda as the raising agent. A little bit of salt, about half a teaspoon. And then cinnamon. So we've got 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. My kitchen at the moment just smells of yummy, warm cinnamon smells. And we're just going to give that a good mix together. Okay, so that's well combined now, and we're just going to start on our wet ingredients now. So vegetable oil again. 1¼ cups of vegetable oil. So this is quite a lot of oil. But obviously this makes it into a super moist cake. And then we've got vanilla. A good teaspoon of vanilla, and then into here we're going to be popping 4 eggs. And just give this a good mix together. So this already looks super moist, the mixture's, you know, quite runny, and then it's also going to have carrots, 3 cups of carrots added into here, and raisins or sultanas if you like that option. You can also add nuts in here, pecans or walnuts, or you can just omit those if they're not to your taste. And something else that you can also pop into here is pineapple. So I'm gonna just put some raisins and a little bit of chopped pineapple, tinned pineapple as well. which will help to keep the cake super moist. Okay, so that's all mixed together. So 3 cups of carrots. I'm just taking a bit of a stab in the dark here as to how many carrots I will need. I've got 5 fairly decent sized carrots here, which I'm just going to chop the ends off and give them a good wash. So for grating carrots, if you've got a food processor with a grating attachment on it, then you will be super happy with yourself, because it makes it super easy to grate the carrots that we need. So we need 3 cups. 1, 2. These are pretty tightly packed cups. Yep, that looks like it is perfect. Let's get the rest of this out here, and that pretty much was bang on the 3 cups that we needed, so that's great. I've got some pineapple here, so I'm just going to use probably about half of this and just chop it up a little bit more and then add it to the carrot cake, and it will just give more of a moist cake. Just roughly chop it. You can actually get crushed pineapple as well. And you can get sliced pineapple, you can get diced pineapple, and you can get crushed pineapple. I think that looks about right. So we'll just add that in as well. And of course, give it a good mix. Oh, I forgot my raisins as well. Just pop a few little raisins in. I now have my final 2 batters here. They are both going to be in the oven for a similar amount of time, so that's why I've left them to go into the oven together. So I've got my lovely carrot cake mixture here, and then my chocolate cake mixture. So I'm just going to pop them into my pre-prepared cake tins here. They've been lined and greased, and we'll get them into the oven. So my carrot cake took a whole hour to cook fully, but while my 3 cakes are cooling, I am making up a cream cheese icing for the carrot cake. I have 250 grams of cream cheese and 100 grams of butter. Beat them together until fluffy. Add in a cup and a half of icing sugar and beat again until light and fluffy. Now onto the fun completion of this cake marathon. I am not a cake decorator, so I always keep it easy. For the chocolate cake, I am poking holes over the entire cake so that the simple drizzle icing of cocoa powder, icing sugar, and warm water can ooze down into the holes and the middle of the cake. Then a dusting of cocoa powder and icing sugar complete the decoration for this cake. My apple cake develops a crunchy sweet top while baking, so it only needs a dusting of icing sugar. And the carrot cake gets this delicious cream cheese icing swirled over the top. Here are my 3 beautiful, delicious, and super easy 1-bowl wonder cakes. Gift one for Mother's Day. Take one into work and share, or just enjoy with your family. Have a great week, everyone.